started really quick. So I'm going to turn off the music, but we have Erika who designed the
Unbroken Circle
well,
cowl.
I was like Circle of Friends. No,
Yeah.
Circle Cowl. This is the Circle of Friends. Um, talking with Paula, whose story inspired the cowl. So, and whose sheep inspired the cowl. So, yeah, would you two like to talk a little bit? I'm gonna go turn our music off for now.
Sure.
Sure. Well, I wanted to just take a moment and thank Sarah and thank McKenna, who's in there somewhere, but McKenna dyed the local wool. Oh, hi, McKenna. That Boston Fiber has that they made into kits for the Unbroken Circle cowl. And so that way that we had talked about this, not just having, one lifetime in the original yarn it was designed for, but of always highlighting farm yarns and shepherd stories, beyond that. So thank you, McKenna, for doing that and making that available local in Boston as well. And anybody who doesn't know her, you can find her under Honey and Quill. So little marketing for you, McKenna. And, I wanted to thank Paula for joining us today. I know I saw many of you on the kickoff for this, but just a quick reminder of who I am. Erika Field. I design under the name of Grapefruit Gardenia, and I have a podcast called Knit Kind that's really just meant to be inclusive, and I think especially important, just recognizing everything that's going on and holding space for everyone. And I know you're all in a local yarn shop today, so even if you did not spend money elsewhere, I think there's no greater place you could show up than Boston Fiber tonight, to be in a nice, inclusive place where you're thinking about each other, taking care of each other. And if you're making an investment in something, you're doing it there. So getting that little piece out of the way, and just a quick wave to Melissa. So also, as we're mentioning podcasts, anybody who's interested in farm yarns and in sweater knitting, especially, Melissa just joined us from Knitting the Stash. She has a great podcast that you might want to check out if you haven't. And she was sort of the other cog in the wheel of this design all coming together when it did, because she had issued a call for designers to work specifically with a farm yarn that she curates, that, she has these limited batches that sell out. And that's how we originally designed the Unbroken Circle cowl. So thanks for joining us, Melissa. I hope you get to enjoy Paula's stories tonight, and we'll sort of jump right into it. So introduction of Paula. Paula is the shepherd at Dancing Pony Sheep Farm in New Hampshire. And I first heard her story on the Junction Fiber Mill Millcast, where she talked about her special you, Ellie Mae, and something that Ellie Mae did and experienced, and then her flock mates. That's probably not the right term, but I'm going to let that her flock mates did to sort of honor her and an experience she had, and then Paula as well. So I'm going to let Paula tell it in her own words tonight. But I think it's really special that she's joining us, and that all these fiber folks, coming to the table with many different experiences, get to share some of those special things tonight. So Paula, I hope I didn't miss too much. I know you have many more things that make up who you are, but I'm going to just let you jump in.
Oh, yeah. No, that's great. Thank you, Erika. And thank you all for inviting me and having me here. This past year has just been a lovely year for me to begin. I don't know if it's just an evolution of my shepherding life, but to really begin to tell my story and the many stories that happen shepherding. At one point I was an elementary school teacher, and we would always, comment, my fellow teachers and I, on how the 1,000 miracles that happen every day that no one saw except us. Well, shepherding is not so different than that. There's just 1,000 things that happen in a day, in a year, that I'm really the only one that ever sees. And so it's lovely to get a chance to share them with other people. So what I'm presenting tonight is not the story of Ellie Mae. It's a talk that I gave at the Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival that actually gives you a little bridge and gives you a bigger picture of maybe who I am a little bit in the world. It's called From Dance Maker to Sheep Caretaker, How Shepherding Changed My Life. And from that talk, I'll link to an older piece that I wrote from 2020, because lambing season that year was particularly intense, no surprise. And the stories of the sheep and their relationships, I think some of those stories, I'm just going to pull out excerpts of that writing that I did there. So I'm just going to launch right into it, and we can talk afterwards and you can ask me any questions you want. So this is From Dance Maker to Sheep Caretaker, How Shepherding Changed My Life. Many people say to me, wow, professional dancer, that must have been amazing. Don't you miss dancing? And of course, the answer is always yes, but it's also no. Mostly now, no. Did I love dancing and touring and making work and teaching, being with other dancers in the studio and on the road? Of course. But understand that for me, a lifelong AAA perfectionist, to be a dancer meant to always be the best, the known, the famous, the soloist, the one chosen over that one. It always implied a separation between me and someone else. It fed the drive that I had to be at the top, to be happy. I had to deny myself to be strong. I had to put my needs above all else. The competition is steep and the work is from your soul. However, your worth is always decided by an outside observer, and so failure to succeed is devastating. But admitting needing help was seen as a sign of weakness. So I didn't know at age 19 how to ask for support. I didn't know I even needed it. I always thought I was supposed to just get it, how to navigate the art world, how to navigate life. I lived in fear of being thought of as a fraud. I danced in one of the most famous dance companies of the time, and still, I wanted to be better. I wanted to be more of a soloist. I wanted to be in that company. So what I'd really like to say is that being a shepherd allowed me to settle down and be satisfied with who and where I am. The crystallization began for me when I was traveling in Ireland, and our friend took us to a shrine in County Clare, and it's said to have been the location of a site where a monk lived for 17 years alone in a tiny cave. And Patricia mentioned to us that one of the vows that this monk took was a vow of stability, a vow that taught him to see the sacred in his repetitive days, in letting go of the allure of change or striving to be somewhere else. In that stillness, in that repetitive constancy, he found peace. I turned to Peter and I said, oh my God, Peter, the sheep are my vow of stability. I still get chills. I remember that moment. I can't describe the feeling, but there was an enormous shift in me, a quiet confidence, a humility, and the green all around me got greener. The mist was more penetrating, and there was this sense of being in myself, that capital S self, the one that's not contained by your skin, but it allows you a glimpse of your place in connection to everything. So what I'd like to say is that becoming a shepherd allowed me to settle down, and it allowed me to pay attention to the world that I interact with in an intimate and powerful way. This came at a thorny time of transition for me. I was in my mid-40s and transitioning out of being an artist and into a rehabilitative Pilates instructor. It was a hard time and full of many tears and wondering if I'd ever recognize myself again. We had just purchased our first permanent flock before our trip to Ireland, and there were many aspects of shepherding that literally saved me in that rocky time. I had been a dancer, a professional dancer, a choreographer, and I was used to working hard physically and paying attention to thousands of details all at once and in motion. So doing the physical labor and attending to the routine of the daily needs of the flock, it was familiar. It was like going to the studio every day. There was a deep friendship and a trust that comes from daily work together, and the flock and I bonded quickly and powerfully. There was also the steep learning curve of the many how-tos of shepherding that included rotational grazing, nutritional care, parasite defense, caring for fleeces, separating the sheep, keeping rams, and of course, lambing. In that first year, I understood that I'd signed a contract with these animals and I was responsible for their care and well-being. And honestly, I didn't know anything about being a shepherd. So I had to let go of being a perfectionist, of feeling worried about what other people would think if I didn't know something. That kind of worrying takes up time and diverts attention away from the problem at hand. Of course, I wanted to be a good shepherd. And of course, I was willing to acknowledge that I needed help and asked millions, many millions of questions of my mentor, Betty, and our local vet. I was happy to read everything I could about sheep and sheep illnesses and grazing and pasture management, and I was willing to admit all that I didn't know. Lives were depending on it. So, what I want to say is that the learning here, the change, was that I found relief in asking questions. I found a group of people happy and not to help me and not judge. I found that there was no PhD in shepherding. There was only the daily task of doing it as best you could, being honest about your mistakes and striving to do even better the next time. And that only happens if you're willing to be both brave and humble. Since then, each year has brought me to make fewer calls to my mentor and the vet. When there are calls, they are now part of a shared heritage, one of familiar stories shared with empathy for hardships and admiration for problems solved, lambs delivered, and lives saved. Each year has brought me into a deep relationship with each individual sheep and further out of my self-destructive perseverating. Each year has given me the ability to mark time by noticing the small things as they develop, change, and evolve. The weather, the grass, the trees, the fleece, the behaviors of the flock, the types of chores, the attire required. 10 years in, I find my vow of stability endlessly grounding, satisfying, and interesting. Becoming a shepherd has taught me to value the power of unconditional love and to put my own fears and needs aside for others in a moment's notice, both sheep and other shepherds. It has helped me to find a community of people who care deeply about their own livestock, their farms, their connection to their land and the natural world. People who build their lives out of love and generously share as much as they can the wealth of knowledge that comes over days and months and years of devotion to life. Shepherds understand that 99% of what we do, the miracles we witness daily, will be seen by no one but us, and that's okay. It makes them no less special or meaningful or important. Lambing season is the time where all of these lessons come into clearest focus, a time each year where I feel the most humble, the time of year that I recognize that there is a sacredness to birth and life and death, a time where no matter how much I know and how much I care, there is much I cannot control. And in that knowledge, I am at my most connected to the animals and to the world. I'd like to conclude by sharing part of a lambing story that I wrote, like I said, in the spring of 2020. So we all know what happened. So it's Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. It's 5:45 p.m. I'm on my way home from work and the light is fading. Soon it won't be dark in the evening, well, not as dark, and the sheep will be able to see the hay. So the ewes who are pregnant are progressing and the night checks will start in a few weeks. First possible lamb day is Saturday, March 14th. I enter the barn, I start distributing hay, and as I'm filling the feeders, I notice that Ellie Mae is following me around, looking at me and pleading with me to notice. Notice. Notice what? As I look at her, I see her daughter, Tiger Lily, standing next to her, ears down, sides absolutely hollow, contracting, unborn lambs totally dropped. This is very odd. Yes, Ellie, I say, I see her. Okay, let me see what we can do. You're a great mom. Thank you. It's at least 2 weeks early. Tiger Lily cannot be in labor. It takes me about 1.5 minutes to feel the anxiety intuition I have when something is wrong with the flock. Her contractions aren't right, but they're true. She is in labor. After conferring with my vet, Peter holds her while I check to see if she's dilated. Not much, a little. We have to wait. I check multiple times through the night, and by morning, nothing has progressed. She's trying to push, she's urinating often, trying to do something. Worried, I finally decide that I should go to work, with Peter agreeing to check her each half hour. After my first class, he calls and says, "You need to come home." I go home and there's blood. She's in distress. I call the vet. "Oh, we can't get there till 3 today." Miraculously, though, they call me right back. If you could get her here, it's almost lunchtime and we can just look at her then. Peter and I go to the barn, get her sequestered, which isn't hard as she's clearly exhausted. Her brother Click is protecting her, Ellie keeping vigil. We pull the hatchback around and lead her out of the barn, and somehow we lift her into the car. Click is calling her from the other side of the barn. I call the vet as we pull out, and we're on our way. Once there, we get her into the vet barn, and upon examining, it's clear something is definitely wrong. They could induce her, which may not work, or do a C-section. We choose to do the C-section. 3.5 hours later, we are putting a very groggy ewe in the car. One lamb was long dead, and the other, because it was so premature, couldn't breathe on its own and had to be put down. As we drive away, we're wondering how we will get her out of the car without hurting her. Her incision is over 12 inches long. Our sweet neighbor meets us at home, and we wait for her partner to leave work to help us lift her out. Yes, he leaves work early to come home and help us. The generosity is not lost on us. As we wait, Peter and Tiger Lily snooze in the hatchback. I clear the barn, set up a jug. The 4 of us ease her to the ground, and she gingerly walks to the end stall and into her pen. Click and Ellie are first in the barn to kiss her and make sure she's all right. One at a time, the others come and say hello, ask about her well-being. She is clearly sad, looking for her lambs that she will never nurse. We keep her penned for a week, giving medicine once daily and watching for signs of infection, waiting for her to pass the remaining placenta. Her sadness weighs on the barn. She and Ellie look to me as if to say, "Where are they? They should be here." And yet they blame me for nothing. I think that they know we saved her life. 1 week later, we let her out, and slowly she re-enters the flock. Her contractions and efforts to clear her system continue for another 10 days. I'm awash with gratitude for having an amazing vet. Early March, things have settled, but COVID-19 anxiety is mounting. I am still working, but wondering if I should be. Everyone is frightened. Everyone is unsure what the right thing to do is. I'm continuing night checks on the sheep, definite signs of soon to happen births. Instead of the usual happy anticipation, I feel afraid. It's Saturday, March 14th, 6 a.m. I'm about to start feeding when I notice Calamity Jane is standing in a corner, a single stillborn lamb, unlicked, on the floor. No sign of placenta or afterbirth. I get her into a jug, remove the obviously premature lamb, and wonder, what is happening? Are all my ewes sick? What did I miss? I return to the house with the sad news. Peter and I have breakfast that I can barely swallow, as my mouth is dry and my heart is in my throat, and my thoughts are racing. Peter leaves to go teach. Everyone else is away, and I'm alone on the farm. I go back out to the barn at 9, and something is very wrong. A few of the ewes are chasing and attacking a Stilby who is clearly in labor. They are all outside, and it's awful. I somehow get her into the barn along with the other pregnant ewes, and for good measure, Tiger Lily and Ellie Mae. I close the door, and I wait, and I wait. And I wait. She's squatting. She's pacing. She's lying down, getting up. Nothing is happening. No bags are appearing. No water breaking. I begin to panic. Will they all lose their lambs this year? I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. I have no business having sheep. It's 11:30. Call the vet. I call the vet and explain what is happening. The stillborn lamb earlier, the C-section 2 weeks ago, and now this. He can come in 40 minutes. As I'm about to hang up, my brother James calls. I call him right back and I begin to cry. I confess how frightened I am. Everything in the whole world is all wrong, and I'm alone and terrified. He helps me to breathe and to calm down. He reminds me that nature is wild and unpredictable. We are not in charge. Thanking him, I say I need to get back out to the barn and wait for the vet. Upon arriving in the barn, I can feel that something has shifted. I walk in, and there is a Stilby, amniotic sac in full view, complete with a little whisper of hooves and a nose. A wave of relief washes over me, and I call the vet, tell him to delay coming, and I'll call him back in a while. I ease them into a jug, and we wait for a possible second. As the bag appears, I see hooves. As she progresses, I see they are rear hooves, and I need to help her deliver this one quickly so it won't suffocate. I wash and lubricate my hands, and I'm able to get hold of the little pelvis easily. As the Stilby contracts, I gently rock the lamb side to side and tug gently down. 2 contractions and she's out. A lovely ewe lamb, more chortling, more answering back, and for a few hours, there's balance in the universe, and goodness is restored to my world. I name them Mr. Mozart and Minuet. March 23rd, the first Monday of being home from work due to the pandemic and teaching online. It goes better than expected. A good nor'easter's brewing, and I think Riley, oh, perfect weather for lambing. At 11:30, with the snow falling, our neighbors Erika and Jeff call on the door, Hildegard's lying down. I get the maternity bag, slip into my barn suit, and we go out quietly. She's in labor, and things are progressing just fine. Clearly uncomfortable, she moves, she walks, she lies down. The head and hooves are out, but the shoulders look stuck. A small little adjustment, and the lamb slips out. She sniffs, puts her nose under it, and tosses it. Paws at it, and tosses it again. No calling, no chortling. She's rejecting her lamb. A few times I try to coax her to lick, but she wants nothing to do with it. It's really cold in the barn. The wind is howling and the snow has begun in earnest. Together, we take the cold, wet lamb into the house and by the wood stove, and we begin drying it off. I mix some colostrum, feed the tiny ewe lamb an ounce, and send Peter and Jeff out to watch to see if there's another lamb. Erika stays with the little one with the instructions to get it as dry as possible as I head back out to the guys. There is a second lamb. We stay away. Maybe my presence scared her away from her first lamb? Nope. Same behavior. Rejects the second lamb. It's heartbreaking to witness. I carry the second lamb to the house. Peter and Jeff put Hildegard into a jug, and we milk her out for the first 24 hours so we can feed her colostrum to the little ones. They're fine. They're in the living room. That evening, by the wood stove, they're warm and happy. The storm has now really begun to thicken, and Oswego tea is making it clear that she's going to go that night. My anxiety and vigilance are maxed. As I try to eat my dinner, it feels like I have a mouthful of sand, and again, my heart is pounding in my throat. I struggle with my sense of competence as a shepherd. I long to see a birth happen the way it usually happens. I keep a mantra all evening. Trust your sheep. When I check on everyone around 9:30, I resist the urge to try to control the situation by forcing them all into the barn. It just makes them anxious. Oswego tea is not where I wish she had been. She's out in the feeding area. It's very drafty, but she's tucked in. And rather than trying to move her and disturbing the calm, I say aloud again, trust your sheep. I go to bed around 11 and try to get a little sleep myself. At 1:30 a.m., I head back out to the barn, and Oswego tea has established herself in the back stall of the barn, where I hoped she would, away from the wind. And who is her guardian? Ellie, of course. Just outside the stall sleeps one of her daughters, Lucy, and granddaughter, Ethel. I sit down and wait in the dim light, trying to breathe, trying to calm worry. I listen to the quiet sounds of the barn at night, rustling and chewing, shifting. Ginger Rogers and Two Spot, another mother-daughter team, come over to where I'm sitting. Standing to my side and to my back, they snuggle in with me and wait in the dim light. They are strong, they are warm, and they are comforting. They're chewing, they're snoozing, and they're nuzzling my head and ears. My heartbeat slows. It's as close to holy as I get. As we watch, her water breaks. She wickers, she calls, she looks. I watch her position and reposition. Oh my God, there's so much water. So many calls to her lambs who have not yet arrived. I temper my anxiety and pray for her to be all right. At 2:30, I hear my mentor Betty's voice. When you're worried about a labor in progress, go inside and have a cup of tea. I get up and I go into the house, get a warm drink, feed the little ones by the wood stove, and head back out 20 minutes later. There is a sturdy lamb on the ground, being licked, barely out of the bag, and already trying to stand. I let Mom do her thing, quietly get her into a jug, and let her lick some more. The lamb is suckling in about 15 minutes. Eventually, another bag, another set of hooves, another little nose, and whoosh, the lamb is out. But it isn't moving. My heart may have stopped. I quickly clear its nose and wah, and then the wickering and the licking and more of the same, and I laugh and I cry. I sneak in, I check the first one, it's a ewe, snip and dip the cord and let Mom do her work. I go in and get her some warm water with molasses, and she drinks the whole thing, and so I get her a second bucket. I finish with the second lamb's cord and I just watch. As they do, one at a time, various members of the flock will come in and say hello, politely and knowingly holding the space. Bittersweet is the reality that the two Romneys that lost their lambs are the first to visit and offer soft kisses to the curious newcomers, Fortissima and Mr. Allegro con troppo. After hellos have been said, Ellie, Tiger Lily, and Calamity hold the space around the jug. I give Mom hay, and I say goodnight. It's now 4 a.m. I come inside to a soft meh. I feed the wee ones, and I go to sleep. That's probably enough. So that gives you an idea of, earlier in my shepherding, I really had to temper my judgments. Now I'm a little better about it. But always, always knowing that I had that comfort of my mentors and the vet and friends who are shepherds. It's really helped me to just progress and feel fuller in my heart and my life. So there you go.
Thank you, Paula.
Oh my gosh, of course.
I think I can kind of see on people's faces on the couch that, this is a privilege to get to hear these stories and not something that, we often do. And we're sitting here knitting with yarns, and there's so much more behind it, even if you think that you are interested or an enthusiast of farm yarn. Sure. What you do is on a whole other level. If we wanted to do the questions that we went over the other day.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so if that's of interest to people, I know one of the things that I thought knitters might be interested in general is from Paula, if she, as a shepherd and from her experience, if she could share one thing that she would want fiber hobbyists to know or fiber enthusiasts to know, what would that be? About farm yarn.
About farm yarn. Yeah, I love this question, and I really thought about it a lot. Before I was a shepherd, my husband and I really made the decision that if we were going to eat meat, we needed to raise it ourselves. And the difference between being part of that process and knowing that this animal that you are now consuming actually had a really good life made a big difference in how we approached and how we believe we even taste and experience our food. Well, I would say the same thing about a farm yarn. Okay, so I do my yarns often very specifically in groups. I raise two types of sheep, Jacobs and Romneys, and I can tell you stories about the yarn, about the wool. These animals are known and they're loved. And so as food that has been raised really humanely and caringly, exudes that love, I think, even when we are consuming it. I think the same about the fiber. I think fiber in a really well raised, respected, cared for animal it exudes something really different than factory yarn, where it's coming from a combination of probably multiple flocks of massive numbers. Commercial flocks are really different than small farm flocks. So I really, the touch of it, the feel of it, the process as you're knitting, knowing you're knitting with Tiger Lily, you're knitting with Ellie Mae. It's different. It's really different. They're beings, and you are experiencing part of their beingness. So,
Well, I know for anybody who heard the story at the kickoff event, you can see Paula is wearing the Unbroken Circle cowl that I knit for her.
yeah.
I was originally thinking of having it knit for her. And then when the whole story came around that Ellie Mae had passed away while we were in the process of this whole collaboration, and you had put her last clip of yarn in the mail to me, I was like, no question, I had to knit it myself. And as I was knitting it, I've always had this moment where, there's some vegetable matter in yarn, and you kind of pick some of it out and maybe you leave some of it in. But this one, it was like every single time I came across a piece of vegetable matter, I sort of waited and thought, I'm going to leave a few more of them in because it's all part of the story, right? It's all part of that whole experience. So yeah, thank you for the privilege of getting to knit that for you. That's probably the most special thing I've ever done in my life. Don't tell my son. But and then I know the other question we talked about is this whole idea that there's so much enthusiasm and sort of buzz now around breed specific yarn, and people want the farm yarn, and this shift, right? And there's sort of the ritz of that, and then there's the reality of that. And so, what have you seen in the past 10 years that you've been doing this, of people like the ones who are sitting on the couch and probably all around at Boston Fiber? How have you seen that clientele, if you will, change as they come to fiber festivals? And, are you seeing that?
Yeah, definitely seeing that, and definitely appreciating the curiosity and the growth in sophistication. Now when people come and they pick up a skein of yarn, I really feel like there's a really different way that people are looking at it and feeling it, testing, like, what's the resilience, what's the spring, what's the touch to the skin, what's the luster, and the conversation about breed and how they're different. It's great that I have a dual breed flock, because I can do these one-to-one comparisons with them and really show, like this sweater, for instance, that I'm wearing is, this is made from Jacob yarn. Okay. So Jacob yarn is really soft. It's really fine. But once you knit it, it's not going to stretch out probably ever. Like, this sweater is 6 years old, and it is exactly in its integrity, right? Romney yarn has great integrity also because of the high crimp, but it's silkier, softer. It will stretch a little bit. It's not going to melt on you, but so just to have those kinds of conversations and be able to really say, what is it that you want to make, and think about structurally, texturally, in terms of, like, luster matters. And do you want something that has a high luster that's going to be a little shinier? Do you want it more muted? All of those things then are going to go with breed specificity, and that people are really knowing and learning to ask those questions and look, I think, probably makes everyone a little more satisfied with their product that they make, and broadens the awareness of even the importance of maintaining the gene pool of all these different heritage breeds. And the more, it's exciting to me as a shepherd. I'm going to stick with my breeds. I'm doing what I'm doing, but it's exciting that so many different breeds are coming and people are interested in the specificity of it. So
yeah. Thank you. Well, I know you had asked me one question too that I will kind of summarize and answer quickly before we let everybody get back to their socializing at midnight. But it was a little bit about why I am choosing to design in farm yarn. And, there's a short answer that involves the fact that I'm able to, because I have flexibility around this. And it's a space that I think is a little bit unique. I personally don't see a ton of people doing, and probably some of that is just from a financial perspective. If you are doing this to pay your bills, it's not necessarily going to be lucrative or you need some longer term business plan for it.
Definitely.
And so, that's a gift that I have the flexibility to do that. And then I see it as a unique space where if I'm doing this for a purpose, what is that purpose? And if I can help shine a light on different small farms and specifically what you can do with the yarns that is unique to that, then I feel like there's some validation in what I'm doing. And it's driven originally by the fact that it does align with my values. It does, it's caring for the environment, and it is small local footprints on what you're doing. And then the heritage breed piece where there are, we look at commercial yarns and it largely either just says wool or merino. And I also learned, which might be of interest to people, that a lot of times when things say merino commercially, it's not even merino breed. What they are referring to is a certain micron. And so it's a certain level of softness, even if you're not actually getting merino. So we're all being fooled, everybody. But I say that in an educational way that, people don't necessarily think of other breeds. They don't think of breeds either for their softness or their luster or whatever it is, because they just, understand what we've been told and how we've been educated. And it's not even necessarily specific to what the actual breed is. So, the piece behind me I've designed, and anybody who comes to Wayland, who's local, will see it, but it was designed specifically for long wool. And, why, when you feel long wool, if you think it may or may not be something you want to wear next to your skin, and what are the characteristics of it, and having a designer design something specifically for a certain breed and then talk about why that is, I think is really helpful. It's helpful for education and just for, like you're saying, satisfaction with pieces that you are buying and what you're doing. It's certainly an investment. And I think it's an investment that, a lot of people who are drawn to this call and that knitting group who's there care a lot about. And so I'm just happy to be able to do that as well.
Great.
So thank you, Boston Fiber.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, Sarah. And
Thanks, Erika.
What's the name of your farm, Paula?
It's called the Dancing Pony Sheep Farm.
The Dancing Pony Sheep Farm. Take a look at
I'm the dancing pony. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.